Late Night Movies with Rob and Zack. This is a podcast about cinematic oddities where we discuss any media that is too bizarre, normal, or off-kilter for contemporary audiences. Occasionally, these projects gel. Most times they crash hard into the realm of obscurity. Join us as we delve into the cult classic swamp. I'm Zack.
And I'm Rob. And I actually have to say at the start of this episode that Zack and I are not going to be able to record today because we have to go see the loveliest bride. Zack, we have to go see the most loveliest bride. Zack, are you excited to go see the most loveliest bride?
Is this the part where I drive the car like into a tree and my head comes out like as you're crawling across the pavement?
Yeah, you're definitely the husband in this scenario. I'm the woman who screams that I've been excited to see the most loveliest bride for my whole life. And you respond with, you've only known about it since last week. But yes, so while Zack and I guess we can record some while we're on our way to see the most loveliest bride. But this week on Cinemoddities, we are still deep into our sketch comedy fort month. And we have finished up Wonderchosen from last week. After we got through the philosophy of that, we are jumping ahead a little bit to the 2007 to 2011 show Whitest Kids U Know, which coincidentally was one of the names we thought of for this podcast before we started. But since it was taken already, we couldn't put on display how white Zack and I are until we got to Chappelle's Show episode. So it's all coming together in this sketch comedy fort month, Zack.
Ba-da-ba-ba-da-ba.
So, Whitest Kids You Know. I think we are delving, at least relatively, from last week's topic of Wonderchosen into something that people are more familiar with. And I think that's where I want to start, Zack. I know in my circles that the Whitest Kids You Know are well-known, maybe not for their entire sketch comedy show, maybe for one specific sketch that we're going to be discussing. But would you agree that this is something that is not topical now, but, you know, it has some staying power in the culture? What do you think about that, Zack? Do people still know about WKUK?
Rob, I do not know what people think of Wookuk.
Okay.
Wookuk, or as Rob was saying before, WCuck. No, the Whitest Kids You Know, I don't know if they have any staying power. I really don't, because, like, I know, like, I guess they're in the same, they're like a less, this is not the best way to describe this, a less popular form of Portlandia. Is that where, like, they're kind of like Portlandia is like the hipster, like,
yes,
what,
yes.
like TV show that people glommed onto. And I'd say this is kind of like a predecessor to that. Not exactly, but maybe like it paved the road for Portlandia.
That's interesting. Okay.
Because this was kind of like an IFC darling. That's how I look at this.
Yes.
And that's kind of my best way of describing it, because other than just the general category of sketch comedy, I wouldn't really know where to put this, because this is kind of, well, barring Wonderchosen, this is very much kind of like its own thing away from like the Amanda Show or Mr. Show and Chappelle's Show.
Yeah, I agree with you. You know, of course, barring Wonderchosen, which we've already discussed, almost is in its own category of sketch comedy or just media. The Whitest Kids You Know, I've always kind of been amazed when I watch it, that I get a sense of kind of, once again, maybe not the best way to put it, but some type of like weird niche avant-garde type of structure and style that they play out in their sketches. And I think that, you know, like I said, a lot of people know it for specific sketches, maybe not the whole thing. So the staying power is interesting. And of course, you know, basically, if you know the Whitest Kids You know their television show, you know Miss March, and then that's about it.
Rob, nobody knows about Miss March.
Really? Nobody knows about that?
Nobody knows about Miss March.
How can they be unaware? How can they be unaware of horsedick.mpeg, though, Zack?
I don't know. Maybe the firemen got to them when they were backing their truck up.
Okay. So Whitest Kids You Know, even though people might not know about it too much, I think where I want to start is my history with it, because that plays into this one sketch I've been mentioning. Whitest Kids You Know, relative to all of sketch comedy that I have collected and watched, it's a little more recent. I remember hearing about the Whitest Kids You Know back in 11th grade, I think. When Zack and I were in 11th grade, I remember for some reason we were doing like some group project in our English class. Zack was not a part of this. one of the classes Zach and Rob did not have together in 11th grade.
That was 10th grade. That was 10th grade. I wasn't there. Yeah, I
oh,
know
that's right. That's right. It was 10th grade. Yes, 11th grade English we did have together with Mrs. Soy. How could I forget? High school also just blends together for me quite a bit. So, but anyway, 10th grade. Yes, Zach's correct. I remember hearing people repeat ad nauseum the phrase, "Now you fucked up. Now you fucked up. Now you fucked up." And I think I asked a few people where it was from, and they were just like, Whitest Kids You Know, it's a show on IFC. And I was like, I don't think I get that channel. And I just kind of fell off the face of the earth. Fast forward a few years later, I go to my freshman year undergrad. And I think the nicest way to put this is in the dorms that I lived in my freshman year, one of the guys on my floor was on the spectrum. And on the spectrum in probably the same way Zach described how he knew someone who glommed onto a lot of the Amanda Show quotes and would just go around repeating them all the time. I cannot express to you, Zach, or our audience how much pure autismal energy went from this one kid repeating the phrase, "Now you fucked up." Like, I am not kidding you. You would hear it. It would be like 5 a.m. and you'd be like, just waking up in your dorm room, like locked door, and you would hear someone running around in the hallways screaming, "Now you fucked up! Now you fucked up!" And people yelling at him to shut up because he said it so much. Like, I'm not kidding. I wish I could have gotten someone to corroborate the story, like my freshman year roommate or some of my buddies from that dorm room. But this kid, probably 80% of the words that were said during his freshman year in undergrad was the phrase, "Now you fucked up." And that's really my history with Whitest Kids You Know, because for years, the only thing people ever talked about it, or in regard to it, was the Abraham Lincoln sketch. And I think just because I had heard it so many times, I wanted absolutely nothing to do with it. It's like, I think I've told Zach before, there's some bands that I love, but they have certain songs that get so much radio play and so much streaming play that I grow to hate them eventually. Like Time to Pretend by MGMT, the song that's at the beginning of the movie 21, like that just got so much airplay. I just wanted to vomit when I hear it. Pumped Up Kicks by Foster the People. Foster the People is a great band. They're a great group of artists. But when that song came out in 2009 or so, you could not turn on any radio station and not hear that song. So this same thing happened to me with Whitest Kids You Know. Like, people just repeated so much of the same sketch over and over. I wanted absolutely nothing to do with it. Eventually, I think it was 2014, I'm living in Ohio, and I see that the 5th season of Whitest Kids You Know is on Netflix, and it had been so long since I'd heard anything about them that I was like, okay, I'll give this a chance. I'll watch, these 10 episodes they have on Netflix, or I'll start to watch it or whatever. And the rest is history. It was sketch comedy. It was great sketch comedy. I found the prior 4 seasons, because there's only 5 seasons total, and I just eventually fell in love with the Whitest Kids You Know, and it has become one of my go-to sketch comedy shows. I have to say I still hate the Abraham Lincoln sketch for all the reasons I've already mentioned, and I was really hoping we could avoid discussing it in this recording. But as I'm about to turn it over to Zach, this was one sketch he told me he wanted to discuss. So, Zach, I know you've been itching, but what's your context with the Whitest Kids You Know and the Abraham Lincoln sketch?
We'll get to that in due time. But no, my background with this, I think, overlaps with yours in that even though Rob and I were not in the same English class sophomore year, Sal was. And considering that Sal was the greatest example of someone who was a bandwagon person, that just as soon as there was a bandwagon, he couldn't hop on it fast enough. And I think he was the one to introduce me to, again, you go, "Now you effed up. Now you effed up." You go, "He's breaking my butt. Don't break my butt. Mm-hmm. Don't break my butt." And the Hitler rap, or I guess Triumph of the Ill. And that was, and I remember Sal showed me a few clips because they were on, this was back like when YouTube still was kind of like the Wild Wild West, where things that were like firmly copyright were on there, and it really was like, you could. This was still back in those days. Sure. I remember him showing me a couple of clips, and like I didn't find any of it funny. And the only 2 things I did find him using were the Hitler rap and the Abraham Lincoln one. And and I remember I did not find it. I really didn't find him funny at all. I remember this was kind of like a few months after like I really got into like Monty Python.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember getting into Monty Python like this end of the summer of 2007, right before I kind of got to know who Rob was. And I remember like trying to introduce that to like people like Sal, and Sal wanted like no parts of this. I remember showing Sal the spam sketch, spam, spam.
Okay.
And Sal's like, it's stupid, I don't get it. And then like 10 months later, when he got into the Whitest Kids You Know, then eventually it led him down the rabbit hole, being like, oh, Sal, like it's kind of, I guess someone finally told Sal, it's like, Sal, Whitest Kids You Know is kind of like a modern riff on Monty Python.
Definitely.
And he, yeah,
it's not in one of the episodes that I sent to Zack for us to watch, but they do have a sketch in Whitest Kids You Know where they say that they reached out to John Cleese because they love Monty Python. And they asked John Cleese to write a sketch for the Whitest Kids You Know. And then they go, here it is. This is the sketch he wrote for us. And it's like two people at a dinner table. And they look at the camera and they say,
thank you very much for your letter. But unfortunately, due to my busy schedule, I won't be able to contribute anything to your show. But thanks again for your interest and best of luck in all your future endeavors.
Sincerely, John Cleese.
And they do that a few times where they specifically reference like their interactions, whether they be real or fake, with the Monty Python people. And they've gone on record saying that they're hugely influenced by them as well. So, yeah, I think you're exactly right. Once you get into Whitest Kids You Know and go down the rabbit hole, it's going to eventually lead you back to Monty Python.
Yeah. And I think eventually Sal walked away from Whitest Kids You Know because I think he realized there's more with Monty Python. There's more bits that kind of have staying power. And that was it for me. Like I know I remember back like in 2008, I had saved the Abraham Lincoln sketch to like my YouTube favorites account, and like once every couple of years, like I'll go through it like all the way back to like the very first video I ever favorited, and I'll watch it then. I'll watch that video maybe once every couple of years. I find it funny. Like every once in a while, I'll go. I don't quote the part where it's like, oh, now you effed up. I always go, he's breaking my butt. Don't break my butt. Don't break my butt. And that's the part I've always found amusing of that sketch.
Okay.
Like I said, I find it funny. I don't think it's the greatest thing ever to the point where I go around screaming it in a dormitory. That's just me, though.
Well, it was only this one kid also. Everyone else hated him for it. So I think that's definitely what we're saying is more of the norm, Zach.
Oh, okay. But yeah, no, I know, like, obviously Rob doesn't like it because of saturation, but yes. I like it. I've everything that we watch, well, that I was forced to watch, that still is my favorite bit, maybe because it's the nostalgia of 11 years ago bleeding in. But as I was watching, because again, Rob sent me the entire episode. I did not watch the entire episode. I just went back to YouTube and found the one video.
Okay.
And,
yeah, I didn't watch it. I just skipped to get to that and the Hitler rap. Yep.
Yeah. And I guess I should say, too, that like even with Triumph of the Ill, really, it's not that I remember enjoying it back in the day. Now I've kind of been like, oh, I get it. Triumph of the Ill, ha 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 ha. But the only thing that doesn't make sense, and it was cut out of the thing I watched, I remember in the original sketch, there's a point where he says like, yo, Garin, what do you have to say? And it's like this guy just rapping. And I remember asking Sal, being like, who's Garin? And Sal going, I don't know either. And I guess I have to ask Rob, I'm not even sure if I'm pronouncing it correctly, but who is the guy that he like says to like when he starts rapping?
I've never looked it up, but I've always just taken it was one of like, Hitler's like generals or something like that.
It's a black guy though.
Well, I think that's what they're getting at with the because in the video he says like he's down with everybody now. Like Hitler's he's not killing people, he's like just battling MCs and stuff like that. So I've always taken it as like, they're using a name drop of somebody who's like was relevant to Hitler, but they're making him a black person because now he's okay with that type of thing. I've never looked into it though, so I'm actually not sure.
I haven't looked at the lyrics either, so I'll have to continue to be a mystery.
Hey kids, it turns out that Hermann Goering was a powerful Nazi figure. At the same time, in the Hitler rap sketch, this person is played by Sam Brown, who's white. So who knows what the fuck Rob and Zack are talking about at this point.
Yeah. I didn't look up the lyrics either. I definitely think the one line in here that always gets me, the Hitler rap, is when he says something like, there's a party up at Schindler's and I'm on his A list. And I'm like, okay, that gets a chuckle out of me.
Yes, in the end, Frank thing, like sipping Chris with my bitch and Frank.
Yeah. Yeah, it's clever. I think that as we get into more sketches, I think that's one of the hallmarks of the Whitest Kids You Know, or at least Trevor Moore, where, he likes to do those comedy songs type of thing.
Yeah, no, I have all the people in this. He's the only one I remember, especially because he has like the most unique face out of the lot. and 2 because he was the face of Miss March.
Yes. He's also, I guess, since we have to discuss cast and writers, the 5 Whitest Kids You Know are the cast of this, basically. The 5 of them are also writers, but every episode, Trevor Moore gets his own little, title card in the credits where he gets labeled as the head writer. So pretty much everything really was, kind of his brainchild at some point, and then they would play with it and kind of go from there.
Yeah, it definitely shows over the course of the show.
Definite. Oh yeah, absolutely. I think one of them like Sam or Timmy, like even in the last 2 seasons, they're not even credited as a writer or anything like that. So yeah, interesting stuff. All right. So Zach, where do we want to go with this? Do we want to talk about some sketches like we did Mr. Show? Did you have some highlights? Did you want to run through them? What were your thoughts
I do have highlights, Rob.
Okay. I figured we'd do some highlights because I have some highlights as well. There's certain sketches, I don't think we need to spend any time on, really. So we could definitely skip over some of those, but I do want to know what Zach highlighted. But I guess I have to ask you, Zach, correct me if I'm wrong, but you have not seen a lot of this.
No, I'd never seen. From what I remember prior to watching these, I'd seen Triumph of the Ill, Abraham Lincoln, and there was one sketch I remember Sal showed me he thought was the funniest thing ever. And it's one of the guys like drawing on a whiteboard, and it's like he's just screaming something. He's like, "Don't look at this," or I don't know, that's what he says. Like, "That's not what this is. Stop!" And it's just screaming. The other guy's like guessing what it is. It takes place in an office.
Okay.
And I'm like, I don't remember what it's even called. I just remember that like memory.
Sure.
And that's all I remember. And I was being like, Sal, this isn't funny. Like, I do not get the humor in this. Like, I'm glad. Like, and Sal's like pissing himself. Like, I think like you could see like the stain in his pants growing over the course of like the sketch. And I'm like, Sal, I'm glad you find this amusing. I just don't at all.
Okay. So like now that we're back in an episode of our sketch comedy Fort Month where Zach is unfamiliar with the topic, I guess we have to ask then, what'd you think? Just like we asked for Mr. Show, Wonder Chosen, now that you've seen more of it, what were your impressions?
If it weren't for the Amanda Show, this would have been the worst thing we'd watched during the Fort Month, I'd say.
Really? Okay.
Yes. This was painful at times.
I 100% expected you to say this because everybody else I've ever watched this show with in more recent times, I'm not talking about like back when, it was more popular and when it was like being released on Netflix more recently, they have had the same exact thing to say. I know I mentioned it in our first episode of the sketch comedy Fort Month. I watched an episode of this show with somebody, and after it ended, they said, "Man, this show makes me feel stupid." So I think this is that 100% happened to me. I remember who it was, and they would probably say to me again. I'm sure they don't remember saying it to me, but I could repeat the experiment and get them to say it to me again. So this falls firmly into another topic I brought up with sketch comedy Fort Month way back in the first episode, where I talk a lot about how sketch comedy that I enjoy isn't always something that makes me laugh. It's something more that makes me just think and be intrigued by things. And that's really where this show has ended up falling for me. A lot of these I don't think are funny. I'm just kind of blown away by not just the content of individual sketches, but the composition of episodes. And so I think there will be a little more meta of a discussion rather than discussing actual or specific sketches, more of the idea of how we get such a broad range of topics and styles in each of these episodes. And I think that's always been something that has really stood out to me. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I get it. Because a lot of these, again, please don't anticipate another Chappelle show where we kind of break down like what's funny and what's not funny, because it's either going to be a very lengthy episode or a very short episode.
No. So to that point, I think before we jump into some specific sketches to highlight, I think that, this is what I just described, how we kind of have, this weird collection or composition of sketches in every episode. That really comes down to, how you watch this. I don't know how much research Zach did, but when Whitest Kids You Know was airing on IFC, sometimes it would air as a 30-minute block, and sometime it would air as a 15-minute block. And so there's no really kind of distinction on what sketches go with which episode. because sometimes they would air in a half an hour episode of Whitest Kids You Know, and it would get to, the 6 or 7 sketches that you get in a usual, 22 minutes of material with some commercials. But then they would go back and they would air the same episodes just cut up, and they would basically say, okay, let's cut it up into 2 halves. Let's move some sketches around from the first half to the second half and then air it again. So it's not like I think the Whitest Kids You Know chose, or the producers chose, to have this type of composition of sketches. It was more of the scheduling or something like that. Maybe you have more light to shed on that, Zach. Have you ever heard of this happening where sometimes we'll get a 30-minute version of an episode, sometimes we'll get a 15-minute version? Is this common?
That sounds more like someone trying to fit into the programming schedule.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying, where it seems like this the what exists in these episodes is more up to the people who are scheduling rather than the actual people who are creating the episodes.
It sounds less like a creative choice and more of just a practical, just we have space, just plug it in. I mean, that happens sometimes. I'm trying to think of a good example. Kind of like going back to Disney Channel would be like did air a Disney Channel original movie like from like, I don't know, 8 o'clock to like 9:40. And so they didn't have time to air like a full like 2 11-minute episodes. So you get like a couple like on like a music video. You get like some, I don't know, some just general marketing materials. Then you get like one block of like, I don't know, Kim Possible or the Proud Family. And obviously children's programming is a lot different than IFC. But no, it sounds more like a practical decision than a creative one. Like, okay, we have a spot to fill. We have access to all these. It's weird that I'm surprised someone like Trevor Moore, whoever was in charge of this, I would imagine you probably have to agree to these sort of terms. That a lot of times people don't want that. Again, producers just don't want the network just cutting things up just to, again, fit them into a spot where they have room. So it's weird that didn't happen.
Okay, sure.
But or maybe they didn't care. It's sketch comedy. What's the difference if it airs in a half an hour block or an hour block? The bit is either going to land or it's not going to land.
Yep. And so I think that you bring up a really good point. This show is kind of, whether it was created or not to fit that, the structure of this show is just sketches. We never have the Whitest Kids You Know talking to the audience like we did in Chappelle's show. We never had these kind of buffers of a narrative like we did in, say, Wonder Shows, or really even bookends like we did for the Amanda Show or the Idiot Box. This is truly just sketches strung together by the buffer of their logo and a little bit of noise of a sound effect. So it lends itself to being like, okay, we can cut it up and move it around. It's almost like, where do these pieces fit together so they fit into this time block we have? Absolutely. So while I said, I've always been interested in the composition of these sketches, that's not something that exists fixed, I should say. Like I think I have a few of my rips are from DVDs. And so that's just, if you get the DVDs, that will always be the order for those episodes. But then I have some TV rips, and the TV rips have sketches that are in different orders from, say, what's listed on, sources like Wikipedia and IMDb and other places like that. I have some episodes that are listed as, like season 3, episode 4, when it turns out that it's actually, the first half of season 3, episode 8, according to this source, and then the second half of season 3, episode 13 for this other source. And so it's all over the place. And so I can't comment on as much as the intrigue of this composition of sketches, because as we've been saying, it seems like it's just, how do we get the round peg to fit into a square hole type of thing for the network? Yeah,
can't disagree.
Okay. So I did think that was interesting, because I didn't know that until the research for this recording, that they actually did this weird type of breaking it up and type of thing. So I guess we have to get into, before we can talk about some of the more philosophical stuff of this, we do have to discuss some of the sketches, because so far we've just done the Abe Lincoln and the Hitler rap sketch, which are probably the two most well-known ones. Did you have anything else to say about either of those two, Zach?
No, just don't break my ass.
Sure. Okay. So then I guess, as usually, the next thing I would say is I would tell the audience what episodes we watched, because of course, I chose, I think, maybe 5 episodes for Zach and I to watch and discuss. But based on what we just said about how all the episodes could possibly be in different orders, I guess that doesn't really matter. So let's just throw it over to Zach and say, well, what did you want to highlight? what were the standouts or negative standouts that you wanted to comment on?
Season 2, episode 2.
Yes.
The Peeping Tom sketch.
Oh, okay. Yes, the Rear Window-esque type of thing.
Yes, as I was, because at this point, I think that's the second or third sketch of the first episode you gave me.
Yeah.
And I already was like rolling my eyes so badly they were falling out of my skull. And I'm like, oh no, this is going to be one of those things. And then I saw this sketch and I'm like, oh, okay. Again, I remember liking Trevor Moore from Miss March. I'm like, oh, this is a funny premise. The idea of like a pretty woman across the way. She's getting naked. You can do things that you can't do on like regular, because this time IFC was like a weird sort of like, it wasn't like basic cable.
Yeah.
But it wasn't HBO. It was like in this weird sort of like gray zone where it was like premium cable, but not just like top tier. So like you have her, she's getting disrobed. She sees, I think at one point, what's one of the guys says like, oh, shine her with your laser pointer.
Yeah, they think that she's jumping around and bending over like right in front of the window in her lingerie. So they're like, she has to know we're here. So shine your laser pointer at her.
which that in of itself is just a funny idea. Like, oh, you're witnessing this thing that's kind of, again, it's a very hyper realized scenario of any sort of like Peeping Tom, where it's like you have this gorgeous woman, she's wearing practically nothing. And it's like, oh, let's shine her with the laser pointer. And they're like, okay. And they shine it. And then like, okay, she sees them. And I'm guessing it's she feels humiliated. So she pulls a gun out and shoots herself in the head.
She chokes. She chokes. She sees the laser pointer and chokes, but then the husband comes in and he shoots himself in the head.
Excuse me, I got my deaths wrong.
There's many deaths in this sketch, so it's okay. It's understandable.
And it's like, okay, so she chokes, and I'm like, okay, this is a funny bit. I'm like, okay, you have your set off, now you have a payoff, and what's gonna be the resolution to this now? What's gonna happen to these two guys? And then like the husband comes in, like Rob says, he sees, oh God, honey, and they're like screaming, why isn't he doing CPR on her? And then he pulls out a gun and shoots himself. And I'm like, okay, where is this going now? And then I start getting afraid. I'm like, oh no, this is going to turn into a sketch of just everything dialed up to 11. And then, then like the cops come in and do, right? Isn't it the cops come in?
I think the kid is next and picks up the gun.
Child, yes.
And then we have a great like voice acting of Timmy. He goes, is that kid going to kill himself? That kid's going to kill himself. But then the cops come in.
Oh no, a kid!
This is bad. Oh no, don't do it!
Is he gonna kill himself?
Oh no, don't do it.
That kid's gonna kill himself!
Yes, and eventually it's just that every single person who sees the bodies kills themselves. And it's like, okay. And until eventually the sketch ends with the two whitest kids you know being like, hey, she's just getting out of the shower. And that's the end of the sketch. And I'm like, you have such a great setup. And then it becomes just again, this is the thing I have to say. This felt very Amanda Show-esque in that sense of where we were talking about like every sketch has like its premise, except the premise is played to death. And sometimes that works. Most of the time it doesn't. And that's where I'm like, oh God, like, cause again, I think they all have, for the most part, a pretty good sense of comedic timing. It's just that the premise of each sketch doesn't do them favors.
Yeah, I would say I have to agree. And I think this is just something we're realizing as we discuss, you and I, Zach, discuss more and more of where, you know, when a joke, when any comedic thing goes on too long, I know that's something we've talked about a lot so far on this Fort month, that's where you start to tune out a little bit, or a lot in some cases, and where I start to really go like, oh my God, like I need to inspect this even further type of thing. Like, because those are the points when the sketches really start to intrigue me, because you're right. You're absolutely right. I think everything you said about this sketch, this has never been one of my favorite sketches, but everything you're saying is like, yes, you have a good setup, and then it just gets played to death, and it's like they're just stretching this last little drop of comedy or ingenuity that they have in this and trying to fill it out for some reason. And that's the points of Whitest Kids You Know, where I'm like, you know, this is interesting to me for some reason. And once again, you know, it's clever setup, but anything about this sketch I wouldn't really call funny. You know, this is much more of, I think, high school humor, where it's like, oh, the cop shot a little kid because he had a gun. It's so hilarious. And it's like, no, that's just like what you would do in that setting of this sketch at that point. It's I think a good way to put it, and maybe this will make more sense to, or maybe it'll make sense to you now, but I think as we describe some sketches we have to highlight, I think part of the reason that I enjoy the Whitest Kids You Know so much as a comedy troupe is because they're not doing anything. Maybe a better way to put it is almost all of the jokes that they throw out are low-hanging fruit, but it's low-hanging fruit that everybody else thought was so low-hanging they didn't want to touch. And that's really, really interesting to me. You know, it's like they were picking up the fruit that was already laying on the ground type of thing. And I find that really, really intriguing.
That's the only sketch I have from that episode.
From that first episode? Okay. I did want to highlight, just based on what we saw, what we were saying earlier about, the joke kind of plays itself out. Maybe to juxtapose that, maybe the joke playing itself out almost immediately. This is probably a good example of maybe a sketch that doesn't hold up well because it's probably been done and thought about so many times. The fake commercial for joining the police force, where the whole commercial for joining the police force is just you get to fire your gun all the time. And I think that's one of the examples where the joke doesn't really play out. The whole sketch is maybe, 30, 40 seconds long. And it's like, you could be a traffic operator. And like the traffic operator, like the guy waving traffic is just shooting his gun straight into the camera. And it's like, you could be prepared for stakeouts. And a guy has binoculars and he's shooting his gun right up at the sky. And it's like, as soon as you watch a second to 2 seconds of that sketch, you understand what it is and you don't need to see any more. And so it's kind of like, it doesn't hold up. No one's going to watch this today and go, oh, that's so clever. The police shoot all the time. It's like, no, that's just like political commentary almost at this point. You know what I'm saying?
Yes, but I think I did laugh at that. I found that amusing. It's like, okay, if you're a cop, it's like you free reign to fire your gun as much as you want. That's funny. And I think it's one of the very few sketches that plays out its premise just long enough that it doesn't wear out its own welcome.
Okay.
That's one of the ones I have to say work for the most part. Like it depends on what your audience is. Again, comedy is so subjective. But no, that's one of the ones I'd say actually does its job just perfectly.
Okay, sure. Let's juxtapose that to the sketch that follows it immediately after, the cowboy putting on shows sketch.
Oh God. I think every time I watch this sketch, it gets basically no outward reaction from me.
But at the end of it, every single time, I'm just like, what the fuck is this? Like, what is this? This transcends the concept I've been discussing on this episode of the series, where I'm talking about just how did this sketch get created. This sketch is more like they were on a bad acid trip and had cameras around them, and there was no one to tell them no. Because this is just a bad idea through and through, I feel.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think, that type of stuff, it's interesting to have, something going from, like you said, the Peeping Tom sketch to just a few minutes later, we get this cowboy sketch, which ends with, one of the troupe members walking out of the sketch and the other one's going, show me your mood ring. It's blue, you're sad. It's green, I'm horny. I peed in my face. And it's like, what the fuck is this?
I did chuckle at the thing at the end with the mood ring. It's like, green means you said, no, it means I'm horny. And it's like, I don't know. It's so funny. It's like, there's bits and pieces to this. Like, there's some corn in the crap. Like, there is some nutritional value here.
I think that's just Zach's motto for sketch comedy as a whole. Like, there's some corn in the crap.
Yeah, that's how we're going to describe the Fort month at the end. It's going to be there's some corn in the crap. There's some gems, but they're few and far in between.
And so that's Zach. Zach is like the normal person that, looks at a pile of crap and says, there might be something good in there, but I don't want to dig into it to find it. Where I'm more like I don't know if Zach's
lives in it. Rob lives in it.
I was going to make the analogy. I don't know if Zach's ever seen it, but there's like the episode of It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia where Danny DeVito and Charlie Day, they like sleep in the same bed in that show. And one morning they wake up and there's like someone shit the bed. Like, that's literally the name of the episode is Who Pooped the Bed? And so they like take the poop to some lab and they're like, hey, can you analyze this to see like what this person has eaten? We can figure out who has like who pooped the bed. And the lab technician is like, who are you people? Get out of here. I'm not going to do whatever you're asking me. But as they're leaving, there's like this squirmier lab technician who comes up and he's like, hey, You got shit I can look at? And he like wants to look at it. I'm that guy for sketch comedy. I want to wade through all the shit to find the diamonds in the rough. And as it turns out, I enjoy a lot of the shit as well. I'm not denying it. Some of this stuff we've discussed and that we haven't yet discussed is nonsense, and I am all on board with it.
A clunky analogy for a clunky podcast.
Well, Zach, if you had watched all of It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia, it would have been a little better.
Oh, okay.
I think that other than that, that was it. All I wanted to really highlight from season 2, episode 2. I think other in here, we get the doctor that is homophobic, doesn't want to touch a patient's testicle to see if there's a lump. We get the McLaughlins, where the kids get whale genitalia or animal genitalia attached to their heads. All that stuff. So yeah, I definitely think out of the episodes I picked, this was one I picked solely for the highlighting of things like, the cowboy sketch and the pure, really, it's an even purer form of bafflement than I've previously discussed on this series.
Moving on. I completely skipped season 3, episode 5. So if you have anything to pull from that, now is your time to speak.
Okay, well, season 3, episode 4 was what we were supposed to discuss next. So,
I had 5 written down. Never mind.
Okay. So, I guess expand on that. Did you just not want to watch it?
No, I watched it. I just didn't like anything in it.
Oh, okay. I thought you said that you turned it on and then just didn't watch it, type of thing.
Well, that's what my brain did.
Sure.
I physically sat through it. Whether my brain processed it or watched it is a completely separate question.
Okay. So this one, this one has the skateboard sketch that I mentioned. I have nothing against the Asian hooker sketch at the start when the CEO has the Asian prostitute tied up to the bed. I've always enjoyed that for some extent, especially, when the pimp comes in and they're like, "Sir, what's going on?" He's like, "It's just a pimp stabbing his trick. It happens all the time." I have nothing against that sketch. There's nothing really, mind-blowing about it. It's just kind of a weird, almost fish out of water scenario, or just a different perspective to a common boardroom scenario. But then, we get to things like the earthquake sketch, which that's really the kind of sketch that screams to me like this is a level of avant-garde that is beyond avant-garde or maybe below avant-garde. I don't know. It's just so weird that this sketch starts with, okay, an earthquake's been going on for a long time, sure. And then a news anchor curses on air because a light falls during the earthquake and hits him on his head. Then there's a trial for I don't know why there's a trial, because there's video evidence that this guy cursed on air. And then the earthquake stops and they're like, we're all going to celebrate with sodas, and all the sodas blow up, and that's the whole sketch. And it's just what is going on? Why does this exist? How did this get made? Type of thing. How do you conceive this and then say, okay, let's film it? Bonkers.
There's a lot of this too with these sketches where you have to watch. You're like, what is the point of the sketch? What is the joke? What is the set off, the payoff, and the humor? And a lot of times it's is there any of that, or is it just the zaniness is the payoff, and that's just the entire premise? That's
what it seems. So many of these sketches just bounce around, and it's they aren't about anything. It's just so strange. But once again, I am totally on board with that. Just watching it for the sheer kind of intrigue of just what the hell is this? And then, of course, also in this episode, we get the sketch where apparently horses are incredibly turned on by pictures of stegosauruses. Another thing, who would thought of that? Who would have thought that was a good idea to film,
That's very Tom Green-esque. That is somebody
definitely.
That is very Tom Green-esque. The idea of someone trying to, what's the word? Oh, God, there's a phrase for it. Trying to sit there, not inseminate the horse. It's before that when you're trying to get a sample.
Oh, yeah.
A specimen sample from the horse. And it's but it's not working. And it's okay, this is a raunchy premise, but I can imagine teenage boys finding this funny. And then it's how are we going to do it? Get yourself a picture of a dinosaur. They love that. And then when that happens, the horse just does not stop.
Yeah, that's a good point. Definitely the Tom Green aspect. It is Tom Green similar, but it's like a Tom Green joke without the beautiful insanity of Tom Green.
Yes. That's the thing, too. Tom Green makes it look easy.
Yeah, yeah. Because in Tom Green, there's basically the same scene where, you know, he's driving to California or whatever, and he stops on the side of the road and runs onto the farm and grabs the horse's erect penis. And so it's there, definitely.
Again, it's weird how you can have like a very similar premise, but one is executed perfectly, and the other one, for the most part, falls flat.
Yeah, absolutely. So, and then I think there's a few other sketches in here. Well, okay, the last one I did want to mention, but for a reason, because I've actually seen it pop up in recent years. But I have to highlight, because I've already highlighted it, the Most Loveliest Bride sketch. This is one of those things where it's pure insanity. You know, they're in the car, husband and wife, and the woman is just like, I want to see the most loveliest bride. I want to see the most loveliest bride. And it's like, Gloria, I understand. I'm driving as fast as I can. And she just gets louder and louder and shriller and shriller. And then eventually there's the car accident. She crawls over to the husband's decapitated head. And it's like, we have to go see the most loveliest bride. And then she, you know, gets the better. She bites off the EMT's ear. She gets the cop's gun. She runs away into the distance and eventually gets to see the most loveliest bride. This is an example of insanity and pure bafflement as to how this was thought of and came to exist, but it's done in such a way that it matches up with something I'm more interested in. So I'm not saying that this sketch is any more grounded or any more realistic or any of the, you know, antitheses of words we've been describing previous sketches with. It still has all of the hallmarks that we've been describing so far, but for some reason it rubs against me the right way. You know what I'm saying?
No, but I'm glad it does for you.
Yes, absolutely. So, the most loveliest bride. We need to go see the most loveliest bride, Zach. You know what I actually wrote as one of my notes in this sketch? I wish it was longer.
Oh my God.
Like, honestly, we needed shriller and harsher screaming about the most loveliest bride, I think. That's what we needed from this.
Absolutely not.
Zach, would you go see the most loveliest bride with me?
I think so.
Okay, good. Would you purposely crash the car as we were driving?
Maybe,
okay.
Depends on how shrill you are.
Okay. I think we're going to replay this when we go see, Avatar 2 in 9 years?
Oh my God.
It'll be one of us will be driving, and then the other will be like, Avatar 2! We're going back to Pandora!
Yeah, sounds about right.
Okay. So the last sketch in this episode that I wanted to highlight is the last sketch of the episode. I have never been into this sketch. I think it's more because this is not my type of humor, but this is the sketch where Trevor is trying to convince his coworkers that a girl with testicles would be hot, and they just keep calling him gay.
Yes.
So this is not my type of humor, toilet humor, and then all the, like, very overtly sexual humor. Sure, there's some of it I like, but it's not my go-to. This sketch I've never found funny. I've never really found it interesting as well. Like, I've always gotten it, you know. I've been in settings where some people are like, oh, I have this opinion and I really want you to believe it. And so they try all these ways to restate the same facts. But this sketch has never, done anything for me. But I wanted to highlight it because in, the last 2 or 3 years, I have seen this sketch and just this sketch pop up on websites, like on meme sites, Reddit or any of those. People will post this sketch and it will get acclaim. It will get lauded. It will be on the front page and stuff like that. And I don't understand why. Out of all the sketches on here that could be, memeable, maybe, if that's a good way to put it, why this one? Do you have any thoughts on that, Zach? I'm assuming you haven't seen it on any websites pop up recently. But I have, and I'm just kind of baffled by that.
Well, if I have, I wouldn't even be able to recognize that, I don't think. To answer your question, no, I don't know. Because there is an element to this. The idea of, again, especially in today's, socio-political thing with gender norms. It's like, oh, if it's a dude if it's a woman with balls, why wouldn't it be attractive still? I could see maybe on that level, considering that is such a thing now in the culture, maybe. But beyond that, considering that most people probably don't look at it that way, I would imagine, especially the writers of that sketch probably didn't design it that way. I don't know. It's one of those things where it's kind of like, go figure what makes the internet tick.
Okay. There was sometimes I would see this and, I would like watch it to see how much of the sketch they actually included. And every time I've seen it, they include the whole thing. And so part of me was thinking maybe there's some type of like the like LOL so random aspect. Because the end is, when they're like, no, that's gay after he has the diagram. And they're like, Trevor, you're gay. This girl having balls is homosexual. And he goes, you're fired. And then he screams to like the camera or whatever. He's like, okay, folks, back to work. We have to come up with 4 new popcorn flavors by the end of the month. And then it goes, that's right. You've been watching the Popcorn Factory sketch. Part of me thinks maybe that's why people share it, because it has that oh so random aspect to it. But that still, like, that's nothing new for the internet type of thing. That irreverence or that weird kind of left turn at the end, that's nothing new. So I see no reason as why they would glom onto that. So yeah, I just have always been kind of confused that this sketch has been the thing to rise to the top for, meme sites in the most recent years.
Yeah, I wouldn't be able to tell you. Maybe it's that. It would depend on what kind of context it's being shared as in the form of a meme.
Yeah. We'll never know. Zach and I would have to do some deep undercover meme work to figure that out.
Do we get a grant? How much grant money do we need?
Yes, we would need grant money to go undercover in the meme community. All right. So yes, that was the last sketch of season 3, episode 4. While we're in season 3, this is from my research when they did most of their cutting up into the different, like whether it be 30-minute or 15-minute. So can't say for sure if you actually go and find season 3, episode 4, if you're going to get to see things like the Asian hooker in the CEO's room, or the loveliest bride, or the Popcorn Factory sketch. So good luck. For what, the 1% of you that want to look this up afterwards.
You'll be lucky if it's 1%.
It rounds up, what we have what, four viewers? So what? Oh, 25%, 1 out of 4. That's pretty good.
What?
All right. So next one was season 3, episode 8. What did you have to highlight out of here, Zach?
All right. The first sketch is not even one that I like, but one that I think is interesting that would later be borrowed in the form of Rick and Morty. And it is the Anarchy sketch.
Yes.
Which
I have to agree with
off.
Yeah. I have to agree. I'm glad you bring that up because that's something I wanted to discuss. But I have to agree with you. I've never thought this sketch was very funny. I do love the very end where the guy's like, I'm going to be the shirt inspector. And they're like, he sounds like a cop. And he goes, no, I'm just an inspector. And they beat him up. And then they go, anarchy wins. Forget everything that guy said. And the guy from the power plant goes, wait, forget everything that guy said? Well, I'm Barry, and I used to work at the power plant up north. And then it cuts as the end of the sketch. I've always loved that as the end of that sketch. But that's pretty much it, because other than that, it is just the Rick and Morty thing that everybody's kind of, more familiar with now.
Yeah, but I have to say, this is probably one of the more clever sketches where it's like the idea of like, oh, you have all, especially it's applicable even in today's society with the socialist nuts. It's like the idea, like, we're going to tear down the system. And it's like, well, what do we do about the problems that are like left over that if they're not taken care of will destroy everything? Well, we'll sit there and design. Well, you'll be in charge of that. Well, if I'm in charge of that, then how will I be taken care of? Well, everybody, and eventually it leads back to just how the system got started. And no, I think that's clever. Again, it's not exactly comedy. It's more satire.
Sure,
I'd say than straight up like sketch comedy. But no, I think this is actually genuinely clever. Almost too clever for this show. I'd be fascinated in learning who wrote that specific sketch, because whoever it is got chucked out the window the moment they were finished.
Interesting. Okay. Yeah. That's the Rick and Morty thing. I'm glad you bring that up. I could answer that for money. I don't. So I'm going to jump in here, Zach, because the sketch I want to talk about next is the sketch that immediately follows this one. RC Glow. RC Glow. Zach, RC Glow. RC Glow. Zach, RC Glow. The incandescent beverage. Zach, RC Glow.
I drink it.
Incandescent beverage. So this is one sketch that I don't know why, but ever since the first time I saw it, it has stuck in my head. I don't know what it is about this sketch, but the concept, I think it's a lot of the editing. I was really trying to pay attention more to the stuff that isn't just the performances in the sketch when I rewatched it. I think the editing adds a lot to why I enjoy this so much, like the back and forth and the switch between close-up face shots and like full body shots. But just RC Glow. the RC Cola is going to glow. In the dark, all the time. RC Glow. How's it going to glow? That's for marketing to figure out. Do you have the sheet that says what all the departments do? Yes, I do. Did you look at the sheet? That's not for marketing to figure out. Like, I don't know what it is about this sketch, but this is always like stuck in my head. And every time I'm in like a grocery store or something and I see RC Cola, I'll be like, do you think they have RC Glow? And people be like, what is that? And I'll be like, RC Glow, the incandescent beverage. So I think this is going to, now that I've been, reminded of it for Cinemoddities, this is going to be something I think you're going to, Zack and the audience, you'll be hearing me say quite a bit more. RC Glow.
No, we have another Mayo must on our hands.
RC Glow, the incandescent. What consumer would choose an incandescent beverage? RC Glow, the incandescent beverage. That's for marketing. That's for finance to figure out. No, it's not. Well, it's not for marketing to figure out. You're right. Oh, I think we're just going to put the whole clip, the whole sketch in.
Oh, no.
It's only like a minute long.
Oh, God. It feels like 20, though.
I love it. I love RC Glow.
Oh.
All right, gentlemen, let's start this meeting about the new direction of RC Cola. The presentation begins now. Got some ideas. By some, I mean one big idea. RC Glow. That's right. The RC will glow.
What do you mean, glow?
The RC Cola is gonna glow.
In the dark?
All the time.
How are you going to make the RC glow?
That's for the marketing department to figure out.
No, it's not.
Yes, it is.
Pete, do you have the sheet on what the different departments are and what they do?
That's not the marketing department.
You're the marketing department.
I'm the marketing department, and I'm marketing RC Glow.
No, you're not.
Yes, I am.
No, you're not.
Yes, I am.
You're not.
Am.
Not.
RC Glow.
How are you going to make RC glow?
That's for finance to figure out.
No, it's not.
Yes, it is.
Look at the sheet.
It's not.
It's not.
It's not. That's marketing.
No, you're marketing.
I am. RC Glow. In store soon.
No.
Yes.
Why would a consumer choose an incandescent beverage?
RC Cola. The incandescent beverage.
You know, any chemical that's going to make RC glow is going to be toxic.
That's for finance to figure out.
No, it's not.
Look at the sheet.
Well, it's not for marketing.
Well, you're right.
So we don't have to worry about it.
That's not true.
RC Glow. Also vanilla RC Glow.
No.
Yes.
No.
Totally.
No.
Done deal.
It's not.
It is.
No.
Advertising.
Nope.
Finance.
No.
RC Glow. RC Glow.
Fine.
Thank you.
That's another sketch that, like, you take a very thin premise, the idea that, like, you have the marketing guy who has no idea, and it's like, oh, that's finance's job. No, it's so-and-so's job. And then, like, it just keeps going around to, like, the same, like, 2 or 3 beats over and over and over again.
Yes.
The problem is, like, a lot of these sketches have a good premise, but it just, they go nowhere so quickly.
Sure. I think, that goes along with what we were saying with, either they go nowhere or they drag the premise out too long. Like I said, I think it has, like, everything just works for me. The editing keeps it upbeat for me. If it was just like a static shot of them in the courtroom, it would not work as well. It really is those close-ups and things, and it accentuates, when he says RC Glow with the same tone of voice that he's already said it for 20 times. It's fantastic.
Rob really does like repetition, folks.
Oh yeah, this is a perfect example of it. I had to interject because I figured you weren't going to bring up RC Glow.
I was not. I was trying to deliberately avoid it, so thanks.
RC Glow.
All right, next sketch, the bedtime story sketch.
Ah, yes. Remember, we leave this world together. That's probably one of my favorite things to say to a child.
I heard that, and like the whole thing is that's another sketch. It's pretty good. Like it has a nice setup. It has a payoff that you're not expecting. Mm-hmm. It does everything it has that nice little like kind of like touch at the end, like you said, like we leave this world together, which is great. I love that. Like, it's a way of saying goodbye to somebody. I'd love to substitute that from now on. Like someone's like, all right, I'll see you later. We leave this world together. Wait, what? And you shut the door on them.
And that line comes like right after where the little girl is like, Daddy, do you think Mommy will ever find us again? And he goes, I got a 30-06 that says doesn't matter if she does. So that's definitely a gun that he's saying. He says he has a gun where it doesn't matter if she finds them again. And then he goes, we leave this world together.
Yeah, that was good.
Dad, do you think Mommy will ever find us again?
Got a 30-06 that says it doesn't matter if she does.
I love you, Dad.
We leave this world together. Do you understand me? We leave this world together.
I know.
Even prior to that though, where he's going through the whole thing, it's like he's like telling the story, and he's like, I had this, and Daddy had to sell his like '69 muscle car to make an honest woman out of Mommy.
Yeah.
And it's like, and then Daddy realized there weren't enough muscle cars in the world, or enough jewelry, enough rings in the world to make an honest woman out of Mommy.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a solid sketch. That's solid.
Okay. So you are just leaving off the end of that sketch because it is connected with the Jolly Green Giant, right?
Oh, that I like that.
That is part of this. That is part of the sketch. Because they think it's Santa, but it's the Jolly Green Giant on their roof.
I like that bit too, but it's the fact that like it shifts gears and it's so much of a tonal shift. You get whiplash from it. It's tonal whiplash.
Yeah.
And like it's funny because then you have the Jolly Green Giant. And he has a giant bag full of pee, and he dumps it out, and then like he leaves, and you hear them go, "Worst Christmas ever."
Yeah.
Like it's funny, but it's another example of like, you know what? If you left the joke alone with him saying we leave this world together, that would work. Like again, if you want to have a more absurd ending to a sketch, there's other ones you can do that too.
Yeah. I've always thought that way.
Write a Christmas morning or a Christmas night sketch if you want to have that joke. You don't need it in that one.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, that's always seemed really out of place because the meat of that sketch is truly, the story of the dad that the dad's telling to the kid. Absolutely.
The last sketch I have is the final one of the episode.
Oh, the aliens? The mocking aliens? Okay.
Yes, I like the aliens. I like this one.
Oh, okay. Right on.
Because we have a family out in the woods. They're sitting there. They see something in the sky. The aliens ship lands. 3 aliens come out, and they mimic the people as they ask questions like, "Are you aliens?" All these questions like, "Do you want to go to our leaders, wherever it is?" And the aliens just continue to make these fantastic mimicking noises. Like, and they do it in a weird. I guess I gotta give them credit for is that it's a very nice mimicry blended with what I would imagine is an alien language.
Yeah, because you definitely hear because they're mocking them, they're repeating the things that the human family said, but you can still tell that they're repeating them. Like they're like, "Go to Washington. Washington D.C. is that way," and the aliens are like, "Go to Washington. Go to Washington," and it's perfect, as Zack said.
Greetings. Welcome to our planet.
Honey, stand back!
We don't understand your language. You should go to Washington.
Washington, D.C. is that way!
Go to Washington.
Oh, sweet Jesus!
And then the thing that's the cherry on top that I liked, as the aliens eventually leave, go in their spaceship and just get out of there, the main guy turns around and goes, "What a bunch of pricks!" And it just cuts to black.
Yep, and that's the end of the episode. Yep.
I like that. That was good.
Right on.
That was up my alley. Because again, it went on for 60 seconds, maybe like 2 minutes tops. It does not end with the Jolly Green Giant with a bag filled with pee.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Good point.
The more there's got to be like a line graph somewhere where like the shorter the sketches, the much more likely I am to enjoy them.
That'd be interesting. Yeah, to do some analytics like that. When do people fall off of certain things or fall away from certain things?
And you need some of that grant money, right, Rob?
Oh yeah, God, so much grant money.
All right, Rob. Anything else about this episode of Wookuk?
No. Other than RC Glow.
RC Glow. Season 4, episode 5.
Yes.
Only one sketch from this entire episode, and less of me enjoying it, and more of like not. I guess another instance of somebody stealing it from them.
Okay.
The Timmy Talk sketch.
Ah, okay.
This is not Wonder Chosen. This is Tim and Eric.
Yep.
The idea of having an interview and doing it with the same person, but having the footage like overlapped but out of sync. This is Tim and Eric at its or actually, this is more just Adult Swim.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it. Yep. That editing style, for sure.
And the fact that it goes on twice. We get the exact same bit basically done twice, but with two different actors.
Mm-hmm.
And there it is. It's shocking. Like if you could pull it down on Adult Swim, I would not question it for a second.
Okay. Interesting. Yeah, that's a good point. Absolutely.
Okay, that's it.
Okay, the Timmy Talk sketch I've always enjoyed somewhat, but you're absolutely right. It's always made me think of that Tim and Eric, that Adult Swim editing type of stuff. I do want to highlight from this episode a sketch that I've always enjoyed. It's the restaurant sketch where the salad tastes like pussy. And so this sketch, to set up, families at a restaurant, there's two very loud, obnoxious men at a table near them, and they are basically just screaming, "This salad tastes like a pussy." And eventually the family is like, "Can you not scream vulgarities? I'm trying to have dinner with my family." But then they're like, "You have to try this salad." And the husband tries the salad. The wife tries the salad. The kid eventually tries the salad. And he goes, "This doesn't taste like pussy." And all these people are like, "We got you. We knew you've been eating pussy. Where have you been eating pussy?" And he's like, "I don't know. School?" And the mom goes, "Was it Kyle's house?" And he goes, "Sometimes Kyle's house." And she goes, "Well, you could say goodbye to Kyle's house, mister." So I've always loved the idea of this sketch, because it's taken the loud, obnoxious restaurant customer, but it's kind of put it in this vein of, it's a setup to prove, I guess, or find evidence that this kid has been performing cunnilingus, and this kid looks like he could be no more than 10. So that has always just stood out to me. And then, of course, at the end, when one of the guys is like, "Hey, so are you going to help me with that thing with my kid?" And he goes, "Well, what was it again?" And they basically say they're going to dress up like ghosts and burn a cross on somebody's lawn. And he's like, "Yeah, I'm not going to do that." And the other guy's like, "Okay, fair enough. I'll see you on Monday."
Well, this is the sketch that, again, it's a funny idea. It's a raunchy idea, but it's funny. But it's like we don't need 3 minutes of the guys in the back screaming about it. We don't need that much setup.
I agree, and I think this is where we get into more of where the Whitest Kids You Know, they at least thought it was very funny to focus in on that vulgarity and stuff. I definitely think they were some people who, like with the Popcorn Factory sketch, and wouldn't it be hot if this girl had balls? And then they harp on that for so long. I think that's just their style, is they think that the overtly sexual and crude stuff is their wheelhouse.
I don't think it's the raunchy that's the problem, though. It's just the fact that we get it. It's not that the raunchy part. It's the idea okay, we spend so much time on that element of it that it's okay, it's concise. It's brevity is the soul of wit.
I agree with you. I'm saying that the Whitest Kids You Know don't agree with us. They think that just having more, to them, I don't think it is set up. To them, I think it's how many jokes can we write about a salad tasting like a vagina? And then however many jokes they do write, that's what goes in the sketch. And there's no point at cutting it down, because they wrote everything they wrote they think is funny and worth it. So I don't think it's so much of they probably know that the setup is there. They just wanted to throw more of what they think is some really funny material in there. And I think, as we've discussed, we don't find that very funny. You can set that up with one line.
Rob, can we even say that these are the people that made Miss March? Are we sure that they're aware of this?
Aware that they think sex is funny? Absolutely.
No, the fact that their setup can be concise.
No, that we don't know. That we don't know for sure. They might know that.
I don't think they know that at all. I think they think that they have to just keep hammering the point home so hard. And that's what it is. I don't think they realize that okay, we can kind of trim this into 30 seconds, and the payoff will be just as good, if not better, because of it.
I see what you're saying, but I don't even think they think about it that way, which is probably, in some sense agreeing with you. The payoff to them is the 3 minutes of unnecessary dick and ball and vagina jokes that get put into their sketches. That is the payoff, I think, what they believe.
Then that means they have a fundamental misunderstanding of what comedy is.
I wouldn't say misunderstanding. I'd say disagreement or disagreements.
Okay, so the idea, if I think a cake is made with flour, sugar, in I don't know, oil or eggs. Then you come along and it involves a bicycle, some gasoline, and some tubing. That's not a disagreement. I think most people who in comedy know the rules of comedy. And if you could do anything you want with comedy, but after a while, it's just like it moves away from set up, payoff, move on to just, we're just going to keep saying things because we personally find it funny. We're making ourselves laugh, not the audience.
Yeah, I 100% agree. When you say to me, okay, this is how we define a cake. If I come in and I have a bicycle and say it's a cake, we would say that's stupid. We have definitions for things for certain reasons, but there are people out there, and I'm saying I think the Whitest Kids You Know are a group of them, that they will give you a bicycle, say it's a cake, and die on that hill because they think it's funny, and that's what matters.
Okay.
That's what I'm saying, that they have a fundamental... I don't think it's a misunderstanding because, I think just this day and age, I think it's even more importantly, people just make up definitions for words, basically.
Yes.
That's just what people do these days. So we can't say that that's really something that, they shouldn't be doing. Sure, our opinion might be they should know the rules of comedy, but I think to them, they get to make their own rules. That's how they see it.
And that's why they made a movie that made like $2 million.
Yeah.
They surely did die on that. Trevor Moore died on that hill.
And I think that's just a hallmark of not just the Whitest Kids You Know, but Trevor Moore as a whole is like, we'll get into this more later on, but for some of the research into the aftermath of Whitest Kids You Know, I was looking into, interviews with him, and I actually found a Reddit AMA with Trevor Moore, and he basically is like, someone asked him, what does your family think about your comedy? And his answer was, they all hate it. And apparently one Christmas, he went home and he showed his family some song he was working on, which was called the Pope rap. And he described it as it ruined Christmas for his family. So maybe that's just him. That's just his, everybody his whole life. He's been listen, these are my ideas. And people are like, you're stupid. This is not worth our time. He's just gotten to become so aggressively defensive with that he, makes his own rules. That's honestly what I think it is.
At the expense of his career.
Yes, definitely at the expense of his career.
All right, moving on. Timmy Talk was the only one I had that episode.
Okay. I did want to briefly mention the sketch right after Timmy Talk, the bananas sketch where Trevor smokes a banana peel. Solely because we get Twin Peaks imagery. We get the waiting room or the red room or whatever it's
and the reverse
called.
talking.
Yeah. And I always love that, when we get to see a midget talking backwards, dancing backwards, and this time he's in a banana costume instead of a red suit.
Yeah, I picked up on that. That was weird for 2000, 8, 9, 10. That was weird to have a Twin Peaks reference in that time period.
Definitely. Oh yeah.
Twin Peaks was off the air for a decade and a half. It's that's a really weird thing to have in there, but I guess you know what? Whatever.
Yeah,
it works. Thing in the show.
But yeah, that was it for season 4, episode 5.
All right, moving on to season 5, episode 3.
Oh yes, the season 5 episodes. I guess I should say to the audience, for anyone familiar with season 5 of Whitest Kids You Know, the second half almost, or the last 9 minutes probably of every episode in season 5 was solely dedicated to the Civil War on drugs, which I think Zack described it the best way when we were not recording. It is the Moody's point of Whitest Kids You Know. And so it is not sketch comedy. It's basically a film. So we're not discussing that from season 5. Unless, of course, Zack watched any of it and wants to talk about it. I can't imagine he did, though.
I was excited when I got to season 5 because I knew this going in, and I felt so good because it's kind of like a kid at school and you get to leave one period early.
Yes,
that's exactly how I felt. I'm like, oh man, you get to the 14-minute mark, boing, done. Third of the episode gone. Then you get to the next one, third gone. It was great.
Yep, absolutely. Yeah. So no Civil War on drugs talk. That's not sketch comedy. It's not too bad. I don't have too much against it, but it's just so different from everything they've done that I've come to enjoy and find intriguing that it's not worth diving into. So with the remains of our season 5 episodes, season 5 episode 3, I'm assuming, Zack, you had nothing to say about the Jizzle, the cum rag commercial.
No, that was on my list.
Oh, okay. So let's start with that.
The Jizzle, at this time, I would imagine that the Sham Wow was probably just like I don't know, waning in popularity. So
Sure.
they had to get a ShamWow commercial in there, and I'm not even sure, is the ShamWow still a thing?
Maybe.
That's like 10 years old now. Like I remember that
was
was
a long time ago. Yeah.
yeah, and I'm like, I was kept wondering, like, is that still a thing? 'Cause I remember that was like back when Billy Mays was still alive, because he got mad at the ShamWow guy.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
But no, the jizzle, like Rob already says, the ShamWow that like mops up your jizz. And you know what? This is one of those sketches that, like, even though it's very raunchy and gross, it does everything it's supposed to for the premise of the joke. It's about basically a ShamWow that's exclusively for that sort of bodily fluid.
Yeah, it's a solid fake commercial. Yep.
Yeah. You know what? There's not much to talk about it. The entire premise can be explained in one sentence.
Yeah.
And it does exactly what it's supposed to. It's firing on all cylinders.
Okay, cool. Yeah, it's one of our solid fake commercials. Absolutely. I do like when they interview the woman, or the confessional for the woman, and it's the second woman where she's like, I have one for the car, one for the home, one for the boat. I don't leave home without it.
Yeah, it's good.
Right on.
I dig it.
Okay. Well, then the next sketch we had, I certainly I've been wanting to talk to Zack about this sketch for a while. I'm glad we get to do it on Cinemoddities. The John Williams sketch. So it's a very common thing for Whitest Kids U Know. I think this is the only situation in the episodes we watched where it comes up. But a recurring sketch idea of theirs is they will have one of their members play like a famous musician or a famous artist, and they will kind of reimagine their creative process. Like they do one for Trent Reznor from Nine Inch Nails, and basically every Nine Inch Nails album comes around because one of Trent Reznor's ex-girlfriends like tries to get back with him and then breaks his heart again. And so they do one for John Williams, and since I wanted to get one of these sketches in here, I figured, well, with Zack and being the Star Wars guy, how accurate of a depiction of John Williams' creative process is this sketch? You know, does he actually go around bum 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 all the time? Do you know?
I do not, Rob.
Okay.
But I again, like I said, this is another one of those premises that, again, it was, I think, stretched almost to its breaking point. I think for the most part, Trevor Moore gives the fake John Williams enough personality.
This is one of the longest sketches in the entirety of the show. This is a very long sketch.
Yes. Yeah, I picked up on that. And
Zack's like, yes, I had the timer going.
Oh, yeah. This is those ones like, thank God. Because after this was done, I'm like, I think it's one more sketch. And then it's like, okay, we're done before the Civil War.
Yeah, all the others are really short in this one because this one's so long. Yep.
And no, like I said, it's a one-note sketch. It's the whole idea that John Williams goes around no matter where he is. All he's doing is kind of humming his themes, bump, bump, bump. And what he's trying to do is craft the theme to the Star Wars Indiana Jones crossover.
Yes.
And eventually he comes up with the great, like the perfect composition in the middle of the night. He tells his wife to remember it. He wakes up next morning. For
when Short Round marries that Ewok.
Yes.
I do like that line. I've always loved that. When Short Round marries that Ewok.
Bum, 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 bum. Bum, 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 bum. Eureka! I did it. Alice, wake up! I finally did it. The perfect wedding theme for when Short Round marries that Ewok. Remember this. Boom, 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 boom. Boom, 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 boom.
And the next morning he asks the wife, what was it? And she just makes something up and he gets mad. So he challenges her to like a composition off, and she automatically chooses the bathroom, which makes him angry. And they go in front of the sun and they both do their compositions. The wife goes first, which makes John Williams throw up.
Yep.
And then he goes and does his thing, and the son chooses the son just because it makes John Williams throw up.
Mm-hmm.
And then eventually John Williams challenges the son and the mother once again to a composition off, and the dog will be judge.
Yes.
And the son immediately says, I choose the bathroom.
Yep.
It's funny.
Yeah, I've always enjoyed this. I love the idea of, they take a famous musician and reimagine their creative process. I've always been intrigued by that. Whether it be Whitest Kids U Know or anybody else. But yeah, I always thought picking John Williams was very, very interesting. Because, when you pick Trent Reznor from Nine Inch Nails, or I think they do one with like like Pollock or something, and they basically say that he just had a kid who did all his paintings, finger painting type of thing to get all those crazy patterns. But the John Williams one has always been intriguing to me because that's not really one I would have thought of to be like, oh, that's the front man for a band, so we're gonna, or like a famous artist, so we're gonna poke fun at him. It's really, he's just the guy behind all the music of these films that we love, and yeah, he is famous, of course, but I think that he's not the first thing non-musical people think of when they think of, say, Star Wars or Indiana Jones or Harry Potter or anything like that.
Not one bit.
Yeah. So I also love that. I think we only get to hear it twice, but they call the son Sherwin.
Sherwin, come here. We need you to judge something.
What is it?
So the son's name is Sherwin Williams, which is the paint company. And I've always thought that was clever because there's that one line.
Yeah, that's funny.
She's like, Sherwin, you got to judge our competition. I'm like, Sherwin Williams. Oh.
Yeah, it's good. I didn't pick up on that either, but yeah, it's funny now that you mention it.
And the other thing I wanted to mention about this sketch, we did not discuss it when we talked about Mr. Show, but there is a very lengthy sketch of Mr. Show, which is about Bob Odenkirk plays a character named John Baptiste Falluzza, who is like the marching band composer for like this royalty or something like that, and he goes around like all the time as John Williams does, just making the noises and stuff. And so it reminded me of that because we have characters in both sketches just walking around going bum 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 dum 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 dum. So yeah, some connections to good old Mr. Show. So I know, Zach, you wanted to highlight the ants sketch, right?
Which one was that? I don't remember that one.
So that was the one where the guy is like looking at his car and there's a big scratch in it, and he's like, honey, do you know what happened to my car? How did it get this big scratch? And she starts shuffling her feet backward, and she's like, oh no, the ants are taking me to the mall.
Oh yeah, that one.
That is some stupid shit, isn't it? Like, that's just dumb. That is just straight up dumb comedy, and you cannot dress that up any other way. Like, these people just shuffle their feet and slowly walk backwards whenever and they say it's ants taking them away whenever they're faced with an issue they don't want to deal with. That's just so stupid.
But again, it's to me that's a lot better than the picture with the woman with testicles. That, at least, neither one is particularly good, but I prefer the latter.
Yeah, because it doesn't get played out as much,
Yes.
It doesn't get like destroyed by just the constant, like, okay, we're in a new setting and repeating the same line type of thing.
Yes. Oh, and that sketch I was talking about at the very beginning, where it's the guy with the erase board, what he's screaming is, I'm not finished yet. I'm not finished yet. And he's like drawing a stick figure. That's what he was saying. I finally found it.
Okay, right on.
Just want to mention that. And the last sketch from this episode, this one I thought was genuinely funny, was the kid, like the father's like sitting on the couch. The two kids come like running up to him. They're like, Dad, it's Bikini Day. And he's like, what? And it's like, it's Bikini Day at the zoo. What the hell does that even mean? It's like, they're putting bikinis on all the zoo animals. It's like, they hit him like a pamphlet. And I guess the pamphlet has pictures of said animals wearing bikinis. Like, how is this even possible? It's like, can we go, Dad? Well, of course we can go. And it's like, Hoss, let me get my shoes. Forget your shoes. I'll buy you shoes at the zoo. We need to see this now.
Yeah, that I love that line in particular. That's great. And the dad is, of course, sitting on the couch with a beer bottle in his hand.
And then like we cut to like that, like everybody's in the car, the two kids are in the back seat, and then like this is some pretty great juxtaposition where he's like, well, that it's like
pretty sure he says that was pretty mean of you to trick your dad into going to an intervention.
That's good.
And the kids are like chuckling in the background, and then he goes, who are all those other people? And the kids go, that was the rest of our family. And the dad makes like this like face like, ugh.
Yeah, it was good.
And then as he's driving, he takes a swig out of an alcohol bottle.
Yeah, it was good. I dug that. That was
that
one
was funny. One. Yeah, that one is a good where they set it up, and it's where the bonker or the bonkersness, the insanity of that sketch. They're putting bikinis on the animals. It actually goes somewhere that's intriguing. Like if you imagine if this sketch was anywhere else on this show, like not at the end of an episode and it was any longer, they would actually go to the zoo, there would actually be bikinis on something, and it would play out from there type of thing.
Yeah, exactly. You can still be zany, but not just like hit your audience over the head with it repeatedly.
Yep, exactly.
Less is more sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
All right, Rob, anything else about season 5, episode 3?
Nope. I think we can go to our last episode, season 5, episode 6. What did you have highlighted for this one?
First is the driver's ed sketch.
Okay, before you go on, did you love it or did you hate it?
I enjoyed it. I don't think I hated it, I don't think I really didn't like it or dislike it. I just thought it was amusing. Like, I like the idea of like somebody at driver's ed and like the woman. Again, we should mention that for most of the sketches, it's a man in drag is the woman, and she's like slowly 5 miles an hour, like bumps into trash cans. Not even knocks over, going so slow. She's just like kind of like
pushing
them. And it's like, okay, and she's like gritting her teeth and like shrugging her shoulders as the instructor's like,
brakes. I guess before we get any further into this sketch, Zach, from the moment this is like RC Glow where it stuck with me, but even more so that I love this sketch. I don't know why, because I've thought a lot about, like, when I was talking about the RC Glow with the editing and the repetitiveness of it. Something about the performances in this sketch, like the breaks from Darren, and then the faces made by Trevor, where he's like has the braces and he's gritting his teeth, and they run into like a picnic blanket, and the people are just like standing there, like, what are you doing? Like, oh my god, I love this sketch.
And just in the way the wheel goes directly over the picnic basket, where you can hear like the picnic basket like crunch.
Yeah.
Again, is it zany? Yes, but it's subtle, and I guess I'd say you can almost like break these sketches down from like obnoxious versus not obnoxious.
Okay.
And most of the ones that I've highlighted are not obnoxious.
Sure.
Like the zoo bikini is not obnoxious.
Yeah.
Driver's ed isn't obnoxious. Like, yes, alien encounter is meant to be obnoxious for the most part. Bedtime isn't obnoxious.
But that's more obnoxious in the actual joke than the presentation of the joke.
Yes.
Yeah.
But there's one in between those two, right? There's the trash cans, there's one I forget, and there's the picnic basket.
Yeah, she like runs into like tiny shrubs or trees on someone's lawn. Like she drives over a lawn and like it crushes the plants they have or something like that.
All right, that's what it was. I know there was 3.
Yeah, there's 3. Yeah, this is probably the thing I've taken most from this show. Like whenever I'll be driving with someone else, or like I'll be in the passenger seat with somebody else, and they'll get to like they'll have to park or something, or like turn in somewhere and they're going really slow. I'll be like, brakes. And every once in a while, someone will be like, what? Like, why do you want me to brake? And I'll be like, just ignore me. It's a reference. It's a reference to something if I explain to you right now, you would never understand.
Then you go to the grocery store and you pass the RC Cola aisle and you're like, RC Glow. And then you pass the condiment aisle and you see the mayo mustard mayonnaise.
Wait till we get RC mayo must.
Oh my God. Worlds are colliding. The Matrix is broken.
Yes. I'm glad you wanted to highlight the driver's ed one, because I absolutely love that sketch. It's something about it just strikes that chord with me. Oh, it's awesome.
And the last sketch I have, and possibly my favorite one of the entire show that I watched.
Okay.
The hot daughter sketch.
This is a funny one. I've always liked this one.
This is a great premise. 'Cause I think it relates to the idea of having like an attractive family member, where like, but like it's not just like it's so like she's whoever the person is just so overly attractive that can't be denied, and other family members kind of have to contend with the fact being like, well, they're attractive, but how do I ignore this? And there are some fantastic setups. And I think one of the best parts about this is that we never get to see really the attractive daughter. Like we see her from like the neck down.
Yeah, it's always and it's always like from the back or the side.
Yes.
And you never see her face, absolutely.
And her dialogue is very minimal.
Mm-hmm.
Like at one point she leaves like, okay. Like, she's like, okay, I'm leaving, Dad. It's like, fine, just go.
Yes.
And then the father and the son are talking. It's like, I don't understand where she got this from. It's like, was mom attractive? Not that attractive.
Yeah, I love that line where the son says, was mom ever that hot? And immediately the dad goes, God, no.
And then like the daughter comes back in. It's like, oh crap, she's coming back. And she's like, did you
just look at your breakfast? Yeah.
It's like, did you find? It's like I'm looking for my like cheerleading underwear.
Dad, why is my sister so hot?
I have no idea.
I mean, I'm not crazy, right? Like, she's hot.
It's insane how hot she is.
Was Mom ever that hot?
God, no.
I feel bad, like I'm f***ed up for being attracted to my sister.
Oh, I think I'm in a little worse of a position.
I mean, did you see her ass?
Yes!
Like, what was that, a skirt?
I don't know, it was like painted on. This house is ridiculous. I hate my kids.
Hey.
I gotta move her room to the back shed or something, or I don't know, send her on a semester abroad.
No, Dad. Hot girls only get hotter if you move them to Europe.
Son of a bitch!
And it doesn't help that she leaves her doors wide open every time she changes. Yesterday I saw her get into a bikini.
Oh, boo-hoo, hoo-hoo. I have to go to each one of her swim meets.
Oh, Dad, she's coming back.
Oh, just quick, look at your breakfast.
I'm back.
What do you want?
I forgot my cheerleading underwear.
Oh, God.
Well, just get it and get out, you minx!
Oh god, like it's great. Like it's a solid bit. I love it. It's a solid bit.
And I do like the ending where it turns out that the whole thing is like a fantasy realization that this dude can't be a father. So he walks out of his wife in the delivery room. Yeah. Like the doctor's like, it's a girl, and he goes, yeah, I don't think I could be a father, and just leaves.
It's good. Yeah, this was a nice cherry on top for this entire thing. It's nice to end something with something that actually genuinely makes you laugh and not just like grit through your teeth. Ha ha ha. Ha ha ha.
Well, right on. I definitely wanted to highlight that one. That one's I've always enjoyed for sure. So good. I'm glad you got it on there.
Yep. And that concludes my list, Rob. Anything else from that episode that you want to discuss?
No, I think I just briefly wanted to mention there's in the last sketch of this episode, of course, before we get to the Civil War on drugs, it's where they're doing like the focus group of one person for that TV show of Making Animals Kiss. And I love the one part where like the two executives are standing outside of the glass and they're watching this dude just slouched on a couch watching the show. And they're like, he seems like he likes it. And they go, well, I don't know. Can you tell? One of the executives knocks on the glass and says, what do you think of the program? And the guy like lifts his hand and gives the slightest so-so motion. Like he just waves his hand a little bit. And the executives see this and they get very excited. And they go, okay, pick it up for a whole season. I've always thought that's really funny that their green light is one dude going like, meh.
Yeah, that was neat.
No, but other than that, I think that was it. Absolutely. Our Wakuk, our white cuck, our W cuck. Those were all offensive, right?
Oh, yeah.
So before we get into our real questions, of course, we talked about cast, we talked about writers, we talked about style, talked about structure. I think the only other thing I wanted to discuss would then be, why did it end? And then, of course, what's the legacy of this? Which we talked about a little bit. But the why did it end, I actually found it is more difficult to find some info on this than I thought it was going to be, for at least how popular or maybe not popular, but how, known this show was. But it turns out that the best information I could find, or the most apt information I could find on why this show ended, actually came from the Reddit AMA with Trevor Moore that I mentioned prior. Someone asked that exact question, like, what happened to Whitest Kids U Know? Why did it end? And so Trevor's response was, and I quote, we were sort of thinking that 5 seasons was a good run. We didn't want to start repeating premises or become more and more derivative of ourselves. So we pitched doing the Civil War of Drugs as half of the 5th season to keep it interesting for us. Then, if we were going to do a 6th season, we wanted it to be split between 2 different films, and I don't think that's really what IFC wanted. So, of course, the 6th season never got a green light. So I definitely wanted to state that because it's interesting for me to know that they wanted to go more into the narrative structure of a film type of thing, like Civil War on Drugs. They wanted to dive deeper into that and away from sketch comedy. But it's also interesting to me that they were apparently consciously worried about becoming derivative of themselves. And I think they passed that by the point they got a TV show. Because they were a comedy troupe for years before they got a TV show. And that's where most of these sketches come from. Like, you can go back on the extras of their DVD features and watch, like, you know, recorded tapes of old improv stuff they did and things like that, and old performances. And it's all sketches that got turned into sketches for this show. So I was kind of baffled to see that they were thinking about not becoming derivative of themselves when that's all they were doing, was basically folding in on themselves every single season. Interesting, yeah.
I agree.
Yeah, so crazy, you know. Of course, who knows when, you know, I think what the standard for a Reddit AMA is you need a verified Twitter account, and the standard for that, who knows how strict that is these days. So who knows if this was really Trevor or someone else related to him or Whitest Kids U Know, but that's the info I could find as to why it ended. They wanted to move away from sketch comedy, and IFC was like, that's not what we hired you for. So we got our 5 seasons. Yeah. So, and then I guess for the impact and legacy, as we talked a little bit at the start, where, you know, we don't see a lot of this going forward. I think there's some touches of where this comedy has landed us today, but I think the people who are greatly influenced by the Whitest Kids U Know are getting doxxed and swatted because people think they're racist and homophobic these days. But I did actually want to mention, Zach, I don't know if you saw this in your research, after the Whitest Kids U Know ended in 2011, there were always some stirrings of rumors that they were going to plan a movie. Not that there was any ever notion of what would go into that movie, but it was going to be tentatively called the Whitest Kids U Know movie or something like that. Apparently, they finished the script in 2017. That's the last bit of information we've gotten about that. So I think there was like a tweet or a Reddit post or a Tumblr post or something where it showed like Zack, Sam, and Trevor all in one room, and they had like a screenplay up on their computer, and it said like, oh, we finished the script for the Whitest Kids U Know movie, and it got some popularity on Reddit the day it was posted, and that's the last thing we've heard. So maybe, Zach, maybe we'll get a Whitest Kids U Know movie. Maybe we won't ever. Maybe it'll come out the same time we get the Snyder Cut, and what else? Wasn't there something like the Moody's Point show that doesn't exist? All these things, sketch comedy people want to do. Maybe we'll get them all one day.
No.
It's gonna be a Moody's Point, Civil War on Drugs, and Snyder Cut Justice League crossover. What do you think? Oh, all right. So I think with that being said, those last little bits of why it ended and where we might get some more WKUK from, I think we're ready for our real question. Where do you want to start?
Let's start with Cinemoddity.
I guess I'm going to go with, I think I've been kind of knowing this ever since even before we started talking about the sketch comedy series. I think I've always wanted to say no to this one. Yes, we've talked about how I'm really intrigued by, you know, the corn and the crap analogy we had, where I'm a little more willing to sift through some terrible shit to find things that are really intriguing to me than Zack is, than most people are, I would say. But that doesn't make this odd enough. I'll do that for anything, you know, like the famous, maybe not famous, but what I've told Zack a bunch of times is I suffered through all 8 seasons of Weeds, and that didn't benefit me as a person, but I did it. That doesn't make it a cinemoddity because it was one of the worst things I've ever seen. So, you know, this just being intriguing, and I think of it, you know, maybe in a different analytical way than I do a lot of sketch comedy, that doesn't make it a cinemoddity. So I'm going to go no. What about you, Zack?
I'm going to give a no, but a very specific type of no.
Oh, I love those. The spreadsheet loves those.
Remember from Chappelle's show during the N-word family sketch where the daughter, like the mother's like, "Oh, Janie, what are you up to tonight?" "Oh, Janie has a date with that Tommy M-word boy down the street." And he goes, "Oh, no, no."
Yep.
That's the no I want.
Oh, okay. So you want like the realization of horror? No.
Yes.
Oh, okay. I dig that. I got to figure out how to typeset that, but I like the challenge.
We'll insert another audio clip into the spreadsheet.
Oh, okay. Oh, that's right. We're doing wavelength files in our spreadsheet now. You can see the little waveform of the answer.
And you click it and you can hear our actual thoughts on whether it gets yes or no.
That's interesting, because I don't know if Zach's ever seen it, but it's a pretty common thing. Some people will get tattoos on their body of waveforms so that they can scan it with their phone and it'll play the waveform. And so people will get if you scan this waveform on my arm, it's going to play like my child's voice or something. So we should just get the entire Cinemoddities spreadsheet tattooed on our body so people can scan us and be like, that would be great. We don't have to give out cards. We could just be just scan my back and listen to a clip from an episode.
What would be, okay, I'm thinking, what is the perfect audio clip that you want people to hear from Cinemoddities? What's the perfect 5 to 10 second bite?
Ooh, I don't know. My brain goes right away to something we said about 9/11 imagery. That'd probably be best, right?
Or maybe claws. Something about claws.
Yeah. That'd be good. It's an interesting question. Yeah. What soundbite could somebody scan off of our bodies and then listen to in front of us or behind us, I guess, from where they're scanning, that would hook them on the show? Interesting.
Or to figure that out. That'll be another question left in the spreadsheet. So when we hit our 2-year anniversary,
yes,
that'll be a thing that we'll go back to it.
Perfect. Another asterisk.
All right, late night movie.
So this one, I'm going to go with a definitely. I think for all of the reasons we discussed, and for something that I haven't discussed in a while, I think, with late night movies. But, I always like to be able to show stuff to people that's going to get a reaction out of them, and then that we get to talk about. And, that's all I want is a reaction. Of course, I don't want an extreme reaction where someone's going to break my TV or anything, but I don't think that would happen with this. I have done it before, and I will continue to do it again to show people this and then have them tell me how stupid it is just to see if they can actually defend it. Because, Zach is, that's why we do this podcast. Zach and I can defend our choices and we can explain ourselves to each other. I would love to take some of my less analytical friends, and when they watch this and go, man, it makes me feel stupid, I want to push them late at night and say, does it make you feel stupid or does it make you realize you're stupid? There's a difference. I want to have those discussions, those antagonistic discussions with people late at night, and this is the thing to do it because it's, just harmless enough that people be like, oh yeah, Whitest Kids You Know. Now you're fucked up. I'll watch that. And then it just becomes, us fighting with each other. Perfect. I will totally accept that as a late night outcome, and that's why this gets a definitely for me for late night movie.
All right, folks, we might have gotten our answers to what audio clip do you want. The thing is, the audio clip will be that you'll get the sound wave tattooed on your body is if somebody says something that you like is stupid, you ask them, oh God, how'd you phrase that exactly?
So if you show this show to if you show something to somebody and they say it made them think they were stupid, you say, did it make you think you were stupid or make you realize you were stupid?
Exactly. That's what's gonna be on there.
Perfect.
We gotta tweak it a little. We're not gonna say it's gonna be not if they think it made not if it made them feel stupid. It's gonna be if someone says something you like is stupid. That's what you boil it down to.
Sure. Yeah, we have to tweak the linguistics of it to make it, an easy bite-sized chunk type of thing. But okay, good. We have a foundation.
That's what it's going to be. That's the perfect how to shut somebody down.
Right on. What about you for late night?
Nah, no.
Okay. I was about to ask if that was a meh, like a so-so, or a no. Okay.
It's a so-so leaning toward a no.
Okay. So you're kind of teetering towards that no.
Yeah.
And would you say if you watched one more sketch, it would just teeter all the way to no?
No, I think it's the idea that there are some funny bits in here. So you don't want to throw the baby out with the bathwater because I would imagine for the most part the negatives outweigh the positives for me.
Okay.
But for every just obnoxious sketch, for every 3 to 4 obnoxious sketches, you get one hot daughter or you get the jizzle. You get one of those. and it's worth it.
Okay, sure. That's a good way to put it.
But not. It's in the middle, but leaning toward a no.
Okay, I can dig it.
So for snacks, besides RC Glow, what else are we adding to the Cinemoddities menu?
RC Glow. That's for the word processor, the gods, to figure out. So, of course, RC Glow had to be on there. I think that we should have pussy salad because it's not on the menu at that restaurant. So we should have it on the menu at our restaurant. What it means, I don't know. But the more specific ones I was thinking about, one of them relates back to, I think, the beginning of the first episode we discussed, season 2, episode 2? It's the one where the couple's on a date and the guy has like string in his teeth and he pulls out his organs and then his soul. That sketch. I don't think we highlighted it. Yes, it's the first sketch of season 2, episode 2, the first episode we discussed, where at a dinner date, this guy keeps pulling a long string out of his mouth and it pulls out like a kidney and then a heart and then lungs and his brain and then a soul. I want to take that idea of a string with items on it, but I don't want it to be organs. I basically want to make, I think this is the best way to describe what I'm saying. I want to make a loose kebab. So you know how a kebab, you have the very rigid wooden skewer, and then all the veggies and the meat are like packed onto it. I want that, but I want you to replace the wooden stick with a string and then spread out the distance between all of the things on the string. So it's going to be like a giant, almost clothesline kebab. That's what I was thinking.
Clothesline kebab. That's probably a good way to put it. And then maybe if you're sitting at a big booth at the table, there'll be like hooks above you. You can hang your clothesline kebab, and you don't have all this food just on the table. But I was trying to take that string of organs idea and extend it to something that we could serve to our customers that would just be very large. Like there'd be a lot of empty space on it, and it would just be a string of different foods. I don't know how you'd cook a loose kebab, but I think it'd be pretty easy.
That's for marketing to figure out.
I think it'd be pretty easy. You have to make sure. I think the real question would be not cooking it; it's just making sure the string doesn't burn.
Yeah,
or deteriorate.
Yeah, and sure. Yeah, okay. We can work on it, definitely. So yeah, clothesline kebab, absolutely. Much like at the end of the Popcorn Factory sketch, when he says that they have to think of 4 new popcorn flavors. I definitely tried to rack my brain for popcorn flavors because that's an interesting idea. I've had some terrible popcorn in my life. Like the ones that are just like cheese. Like just straight up that like weird, basically they just took Cheetos and made popcorn out of it. Like that's always been really weird to me. I've never really enjoyed that. White cheddar I'm a little better on. But when we think of new popcorn flavors, like what would they be? Because things that we probably thought were weird now exist. There's probably barbecue flavored popcorn, pizza flavored popcorn, ketchup flavored popcorn. That probably all exists.
Any sort of like powder flavoring you can imagine is probably a thing.
Yes, exactly. So when I was trying to think of new popcorn flavors, it was really like, oh wow, this is intriguing. The 2 that I came up with that I really like, well, one I'm still kind of on the fence about, and it's toothpaste. Because I think toothpaste is already flavored like something else, so you can't really have toothpaste flavored something. I mean, maybe if there's like an organic type of toothpaste that doesn't have flavor, that's what it would taste like. So toothpaste, I was thinking of, but it's kind of like eh. But the other one I thought of was blood flavored popcorn. Because blood is a very unique flavor, and I'm sure that can be distilled into something that's edible for humans. And I'm sure that would be like a big Halloween type of purchase, like blood flavored anything really.
Save it for Monstober, buddy.
Oh, okay. I figured you might say something like that I was jumping the gun for Monstober. But before you get to your snack, Zach, I was interested, just off the dome, any popcorn flavors you'd want to see or think of?
RC Glow popcorn flavor.
Glow popcorn.
It tastes like RC Cola, but it glows.
It glows. So we should have like popcorn glow and RC popcorn?
Well, no, what is it? No, it's RC Glow popcorn. It tastes like RC Cola, but it glows. Popcorn glows.
Sure. But should we go even further and in addition to those 2 things, add RC popcorn? So it's popcorn flavored cola. So we have cola flavored popcorn and popcorn flavored cola. Like, do we want it to come from both directions?
I'm not sure. We have to talk to people at RC about this.
Yeah, we got that. Now that one is for marketing. That's a good one. I like that. I like the RC glow flavored popcorn. Right on.
Didn't you? Wasn't this a few months ago that you were looking into like glow in the dark food items? Because didn't we find like glow in the dark pudding? And you were like you're getting mad the fact that someone's like, oh, just sprinkle this in. You're like, that's not possible.
Yeah.
Then you looked into it, and it's some sort of like really weird chemical that you probably shouldn't be eating that they're putting into all this stuff.
Yeah. If I remember correctly, I don't remember where that came up, but it's been a pet peeve of mine for a few years because people don't understand what glow in the dark means. People don't understand that things that glow in the dark are things that absorb light energy and then can store them. So when there's no light, it looks like there's light on them. I've encountered people in my real life that just think the color green is glow in the dark, and it's like, you're stupid. This hasn't come up in a while, so go back to whatever episode I really rant about it to get the full story. I looked into like what do you actually have to do to make something glow in the dark, and if I remember correctly, my research was you need a shitload of quinine, like a lot of quinine, which is the element, the salt-like element that exists in tonic water. And there is like trace amounts in tonic water. You need a lot of it to create the glow in the dark aspect, like enough that it's going to make you sick type of thing. I'm pretty sure that's what I found. Yeah.
Because then I do have like glow in the dark like pudding now. Like it's like I think Jell-O sells like, or at least that's how they market it. That is for marketing. And it's like, oh, glow in the dark pudding. I'm like, how is this? Like it's powder. I'm like, it's powder mixed with either like milk or water. Like how much of this stuff is in a small packet where it actually can glow in the dark? Never mind, why would you want to consume something like that?
I 100% agree, because when I feel like food items get glow in the dark versions, you're doing it to appeal to children.
Yes.
And then why the fuck would you ever want a child eating anything in the dark? That's just going to cause a bigger mess than when they eat in the light. So like, what is the point of this, you know?
they get cancer at an early age?
Yeah, it's a population control technique.
That's what it is. Okay. The government's creating all these weird glow-in-the-dark edible products for children just to sit there, kind of weed out the. It's a weird new form of like Darwinism.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, all right. Okay, well then, Zach, what snacks did you have for our restaurant from the Whitest Kids You Know, other than RC Glow, of course?
All right. This item's not a food item, though, but it's actually something for our support staff. It's for the bus boys and the waiters.
Something to help them out?
Yes.
Or hinder them further?
No. It has to help them out a little bit.
Yeah, Zach and I are continually playing good cop, bad cop with our employees.
I'm going to give every employee their own jizzle. What they do with it is their own business, as long as it's clean by the end of the night. So it's just like it's like their it's like a sham wow, but what they do with it in their own spare time is their own business.
Okay. So it's not like they have to like leave it at the restaurant. They can take it home with them, type of thing.
It's frowned upon if you take it home with you, but it's not against the rules.
So it's not quite swag, but it's like, you know, an item that we provide our employees to help them out.
Let me rephrase that. We are going to put the logo on it, so it is a form of swag.
Okay. Get behind that.
Get your own Cinemoddities. Rob, how much would it cost to get our own Sham Wow with the Cinemoddities logo on it?
I don't know. That's actually a good idea. From all the weird merchandise we've thought of, from like coasters to stickers, now we could think of chamois.
Chamois that you can masturbate into.
Yeah, they have a non-existent restaurant logo on them. That's a limited edition item right there. I dig it.
How many podcasts out there have their own cleanup rags?
Yeah, that's good. I dig that. That's funny.
But yeah, that's my only snack. Obviously, there's some other low-hanging fruit in there. Like I'd love to have a petting zoo with animals in bikinis, but I think we have enough like sideshow attractions to Cinemoddities restaurant.
Sure, and now that when you say it that way, having a petting zoo with bikinis, didn't we really get to that and Freaked with the heavy petting zoo? Didn't we already consider that? I don't think we considered putting bikinis on the animals, but does that make it any better? Because I think we said no to that back in the Freaked episode.
Okay.
If I remember correctly.
If there is a petting zoo somewhere in the restaurant, there should be at least a day where we have that. And we'll also host interventions that day, so it's a 2-for-1 special.
Oh, there you go. When you say it that way, I'm just imagining like, well, for a while I've been imagining that this restaurant is enormous. Like this place is huge.
It's like the size of like an IKEA or a Sam's Club. That's how I see it.
Yeah. And so I imagine that like, someone like a family comes in the main entrance, and for some reason, maybe they saw it on the advertisement or something, like it's a mom, dad, and a kid, and the dad says something like, "Do you have a petting zoo here?" And the maitre d' or whoever's at the front desk or whatever has to like turn around and scream into the abyss of the restaurant, "Do we have a petting zoo?" And then you finally hear someone go, "Maybe." And then someone else is like, "It's near the animatronics."
It's near the animatronics wing.
Yes, I love that idea where, it's like even the employees don't have a full grasp of the entire establishment.
There's certain regions of the Cinemoddities restaurant you don't go to after dark either. After a certain time of day, it's like you just don't go near those sections.
Exactly. Oh, that's funny. That's good.
How many square footage is like a Sam's Club?
Ooh. It's a good question. Like a depot warehouse type of store. Yeah.
But at the same time, though, is the Cinemoddities restaurant also, because like you think about like a Sam's Club or like a BJ's, they're also 2 stories, or like they're like they're like 2-3 stories high, like 30 feet tall. Is the Cinemoddities restaurant 2 stories?
Oh, I like that. I do like that. That's I could get behind multiple levels. Absolutely.
That'd be great. Like we can actually have like an entire floor devoted to like one activity.
Yeah. Oh, interesting. Okay. So apparently the average size of a Costco store is 145,000 square feet.
That'll work.
Sure. Yeah. I don't really have any gauge for how big that truly is, but I guess in comparison, Sam's Clubs, their average is 136,000. So Costco's
what wimps
are bigger than Sam's Club. Sure. Okay. Yeah. I have no way to spatially relate that quantity to anything in my life.
It's more or less an incomprehensible amount of square footage.
Exactly. Yes. That it's so big that our employees will need to scream across the restaurant to get information from each other. Yeah. No walkie-talkies in the Cinemoddities restaurant.
What we have is like a relay system of strings and paper cups.
Okay. I did that.
And then the kids, I forget what episode it was. We had a bunch of kids that go around calling people the 13-year-olds.
Oh, yeah.
I forget. They go around and they periodically cut the strings, and they're going from like booth to booth. It's a very flawed system.
Just as a lot of our events in the Cinemoddities restaurant are.
I'm trying to think, what episode was it that we brought that up?
Yeah, when did we have kids making fun of adults? You're
it was
the right.
2002 commercials, because we had the kid with the little like not like off-brand like learning Game Boy.
Oh yeah,
and they were using 2002's like level slang and like crude language.
That's right. Yeah, that was a good one. Okay,
that's what it was. I'm trying to think like why would that come as a conversation thing? And I'm like, oh, that's what it would be for. All right, if we're gonna have like an entire like floor of the Cinemoddities restaurant devoted to an activity, I already have some ideas in mind.
Perfect. Good. We're gonna need to develop that with activities, yeah. And that might be good to have some separation between the people that only want to eat and the people that want to be bothered while they eat.
Oh, I don't think there's any choice. It's always.
No, we give them the illusion of choice.
Oh, okay. So it's kind of like smoking and non-smoking, and eventually, like the smoke just waves over to the non-smoking section.
Yes, exactly. It doesn't matter what the choice is. Maybe we can just placate them for a little bit, giving them the illusion that they had their choice.
What would happen if you went to a restaurant in 2019? They asked, like, "Oh, how many?" You say 2, non-smoking. What do you think the reaction would be?
Oh, I don't know. That's funny. That's a good idea. I'm tempted to do that now. I want to do it at like fast food places, like go to McDonald's and it'd be like, I have a reservation for 2 in the smoking section, please. And they're just like, dude, I do not get paid enough to deal with this. There's kiosks where you can order now, you son of a bitch.
But like, I think the best form of that would be like go to like oh god, like what's the most basic chain restaurant there is?
Well, like an IHOP or something.
No, it has to be a tad more. Like IHOP is like.
So you're saying you want to go somewhere the employers are going to care?
Well, yes and no.
Okay. But, they need the right balance of apathy.
Yeah, like I'm trying to think. Like okay, I guess the best example would be like a Chili's, like kind of like that, and you get like like not like a maitre d', because like that's way too fancy for this.
Sure.
Like you go to like a Chili's and you have like the 16-year-old like girl there. She's like, "Hi, welcome to Chili's. How many?" and you'd be like, 3 non-smoking, please. And she's not going to have any. I can think about it. Smoking, non-smoking was phased out long after she was born.
Yep.
She's not going to have any concept of what that is. So, like, what's her reaction? Is she going to be just, like, stare for a second until she realizes, like, oh, my training didn't mention this, so I don't feel bad if I ignore it? Or will she actually inquire and be like, sir, there's no smoking in the restaurant?
And then you'd be like, I said non-smoking, so just put me anywhere in the restaurant then. Like, why are you wasting my time? And then leave.
Now that, folks, is the correct answer.
Oh, that's an interesting, like, social experiment. You know, just go to establishments.
Different restaurants.
Yeah,
like
and put me in the non-smoking, please. That's really interesting.
You do that, and you hear someone like in the back at the bar be like, "What year is it?"
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, that's really intriguing. Yep.
I'm trying to think
didn't we talk about like the Cinemoddities on the street not too long ago? We could add that to the viral video where we instead of just yelling at people on the street, we're also going into restaurants and asking them for the non-smoking section.
We are bringing back. You know what the Cinemoddities restaurant's going to do? We're going to bring back the smoking section. That's what we're going to do. We're going to get a very specific license from whatever state we're operating out of at this point, and we're going to be the only eatery, at the very least in that particular state, possibly the entire country, that lets you smoke in the restaurant.
I love it. I would love to like read Yelp reviews and stuff and be like, it's the only restaurant where I can eat and smoke at. I guess it makes it okay for all the annoying noises and Nelson De La Rosa punching me in the dick.
And the Vox Lux animatronic that says, "Are you retarded?"
Sometimes you get that look where your eyes just glaze over and like the world is happening to you.
Oh man, folks, the Cinemoddities restaurant. We've increased our. I guess one thing I gotta give the Whitest Kids You Know episodes. It's increased our square footage. It's opened up our map even further.
Perfect.
And the real question is the Cinemoddities restaurant still included with that, or is it even its own separate partition now?
Ooh, that's a good question. Is the car wash still its own separate thing?
No,
just like the basement.
No, the car wash. We don't even own that. We rent it out every Monday.
That's right. Yeah, and so
it's not our car wash.
We have to transfer things from the restaurant to the car wash back and forth. Yes, absolutely. Okay.
That's interesting. We have to tell our employees though they cannot put their jizzles in the basket for going through the car wash because the owner of the car wash is getting mad because we're clogging up the drains every Monday.
Yes.
We don't know why. They're only used to mop up tables, but for some reason, that's their intended purpose.
It can't be our employees' jizz because we clearly told them not to jizz in these jizzles.
That's what it says on the thing. It says Cinemoddities restaurant, do not jizz in these jizzles.
Cinemoddities jizzle, not for jizzing. That's great. That's a great idea, Zach. I love it.
It's for promotional use only.
Yes. For
that's what we have written for promotional use only.
That's great. Oh man. Yeah. Anybody in the audience, if you know how to make chamois and ShamWows, that material, let us know where we can get the production line. I think we can start with a run of a good 5,000.
Oh, I was gonna say 10.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Let's just save all the money we can up front. We know we'll be able to turn these over, no problem.
Exactly.
Shark Tank's gonna love us.
Imagine we go to Shark Tank with the idea we have a jizz rack.
Have you sold any? No, but we plan to sell them through our restaurant. How much have you sold at the restaurant? That's also not open. And it's like, and you're asking for $10 million?
And for only 3% of the business?
You and I are going to be up there like, it's a steal. Come on, what are you talking about?
I wonder if there ever is an episode of Shark Tank where it's all like farcical premises, and it's like you go up there like pitch the sharks your idea, and we have this entire elaborate we give them the Cinemoddities spreadsheet, but it's like a copy of Jodorowsky's Dune, where it's like a giant, just like a tome. It's just
illustrations and stuff.
And we hand it to them. Like each one of them gets a giant copy. Mark Cuban starts like doing blow off his. He doesn't even open it. It's great.
Lori
Lori's-
Grenier is like, I don't know what this is. What is this object? And we're like, a book? And she goes, oh! And she like throws it at the ground because she can't touch it or anything.
She picks it up, puts it on the floor, tries to like balance herself on it. She's like, "This is a horrible like exercise equipment." Lori, this is a book. You're supposed to read it, not balance yourself on it.
And she's like, I don't understand how I'm supposed to sell this on QVC. How do I demonstrate reading? How do I do such a thing?
Bethany Frankel's like, "Hey, Mark, can I have some of that Coke?" It's great.
Yeah,
Robert's just there, like reading every single page of it, just like trying to furiously reading through it.
And he's like, "Oh, this is cool. This is cool."
Then 10 seconds later, it's like, "Guys, I'm out."
Oh God, that I would love to do like an episode. I wish there was like a parody episode of Shark Tank. As far as I know, they only did something like that once. They had Jimmy Kimmel come on, and he pitched an idea of a giant traffic cone that you can put over your child. Like that was his joke pitch. But it literally, like he pitched it, and then the sharks were like, okay, like the producers told us this was a joke, so you can leave now. And like they didn't have any comments for it. Like none of them. Like basically Jimmy Kimmel comes out, he pitches this thing, and then they go, that was funny, and he leaves, and that's like the end of the episode. So we could build this up. We could punch up the Shark Tank parody series.
And Mark Cuban's in the corner after the whole traffic cone bit, and he's like Donnell Rawlings in the Mad Real World, like, can you snort coke off of it?
Yeah. Where's my banana cognac?
Let me rephrase that. Mark Cuban allegedly says, "Can I snort coke off of it?"
Yes, allegedly.
We can't have our benefactor suing us for slander and defamation.
Exactly. Perfect. Oh, that's good.
All right, Rob, so how are we going to end this episode?
Well, I think for Sketch Comedy Fort Month, we like to talk about what we're going to discuss next week. And guess what, audience? I don't think we know what we're discussing next week. Is that accurate, Zach? We're still confused about...
we okay, next week we're doing Key and Peele, but we might have a bonus episode, a special bonus.
That's right. I forgot about the bonus. Yes, the next time you hear us, maybe a special bonus about possibly a special bonus thing.
About a special birthday bonus.
Yeah. It'll definitely be birthday related, but I think that's all we know so far.
Yes.
All right, and then after that, as Zach said, next week we'll get back to our Sketch Comedy Fort Month. We're getting near the end. I'm a little upset by that.
I can see the light at the end of the tunnel.
And we are discussing Key and Peele, so we'll finally get to that one. And I think, of course, as we've been doing with our sketch comedy series, we have our intros for our shows. So let's play some Whitest Kids You Know theme song in reverse.
Can we have some Now You Effed Up thrown in?
Oh God. Oh God! I have a feeling you're going to put it in regardless of what I do, Zach.
Stop! Don't break my butt! Don't break my butt!
Maybe if I listen to it like we talked about in Wonder Shows, and backwards makes wrongs go right. So maybe if I listen to the "Now You Fucked Up" clip in reverse 2,000 times, it will undo the trauma that it's put into my head from years past.